My dad was born and raised in a city in northern Brazil called Manaus. And to this day, all of my dad's side of the family, with the exception of him, still lives down there. So my family and I try and make it down there at least once a year to visit my grandpa, my grandmother, and my aunts, uncles, and cousins. Now, I've been exposed to the Brazilian culture as a little baby. My first trip down there was when I was 6 months old, and ever since, my family and I have made it down there about once a year, if not once every year and a half or so. So, from a very young age, I've been exposed to the Brazilian culture. I've seen poverty, I've seen kids working the street just to make a couple of bucks, and I've seen the way that they live there in comparison to the way we live here in the United States. Now, I feel like I've been pretty exposed to both cultures, but this summer we went down there for my cousin's wedding, and I kind of got to see another side of the Brazilian culture that I don't see every time I go down there. So my dad's city sits just on the Amazon River. So one day this past summer when I was there, we decided to take a boat down the river and explore the jungle and the way that the people live on the river, which is very basic lifestyle. Now, we took a boat and we explored. We went down the river. We had lunch and stopped. And then after lunch, we got into a smaller boat, which was basically like a mini motorized canoe. And it was an easier way that we could maneuver through the river and into the jungle so we could see better things. So, as we're making our journey, my dad says to me, "Hey, we're going to stop by this little house and we're going to get to see an anaconda and some other creatures." So I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool." So we venture through and we're going through these canopies of treetops that kind of keep touching and like brushing over our faces and our heads. And I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. The boat starts to slow down and we slowly pull up to this little shack that sat on the river. As we pull up, there's a father, a girl who must have been about 5 or 6, and a young boy who was probably around the age of 3. So we stop, the boat pulls up, and each of us get out of the canoe. As I get out of the canoe, I see the father walk into a room, and then he comes back out with an anaconda wrapped around his neck. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So we're all just in shock by this animal in this little shack, in this one room shack. And he comes out, and we all get to take pictures with it. And then he comes out and brings a sloth. This sloth, which I've never seen before, this extremely slow moving creature. And we all get to take pictures with it as well and play with it. And we kind of enjoy these cool animals. But then, we get back in the boat and we're starting to pull away, and I stop and think, these people live in this shack with with no electricity. They live with these wild animals, an anaconda first of all, and a sloth, just next door to them every single night of every day. And to them, that's their lifestyle. And for me, it was hard to imagine putting myself in their shoes without electricity, without basic plumbing, and living with these wild animals. It was hard for me to imagine, but they do it every single day.